Greetings, fellow Captains. Admiral Seth here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Brawls game mode in World of Warships. So, pretty much to get started with it, it's a 3v3, pretty much a mini, not exactly a ranked battle, but pretty much a mini random battle at 3v3 at tier 5, which played it some as very fun. So it started maybe a week ago, I think, and I'm not entirely sure when it will end. So yeah, you can see in the background I do have a replay of in my Oklahoma, if I'm correct. Yeah, my Oklahoma. Where Oklahoma's newer ship. I don't remember if it's in the armor, if it's for sale for doubloons yet, but it's actually not entirely that new. It came out in I think the American Battleship split. Yeah, in the American Battleship split update, so it's a little over a year old. But it has the normal American below tier 8, just about now, pretty much normal American Dreadnought style battleship. Characteristics is 10 14-inch guns with like a 38-second reload time, but they have pretty good range. They have super heavy American Battleship AP, which is extremely useful in most situations. And it has that, and for some reason it has like pretty much Massachusetts secondaries. It has 8.5 kilometer secondaries, which until the somewhat recent release, maybe 3-4 months ago, so not really that recent release of the Agincourt to the game, it had, up until that, had the longest range secondaries. Now it's tied with the Agincourt. I don't have the Agincourt, I haven't played it at all, so I'm not sure if it would not exactly be worth it, but if it would, yeah, pretty much if it would be worth it or not. Because the Agincourt is faster. Well, not really even faster. It just has 14, I think 14 13-inch guns with British Battleship HE, which means you can be setting upwards of like 2 to 3 fires a salvo. And then it has the strange secondaries. So, if you have one, it's very useful for this. My opinion, from what I know of the Agincourt and of the Oklahoma, for me playing the Oklahoma, I think the Oklahoma is better. In my opinion, it's not extremely better, but it's very good. Because you have that nice long range with 10 14-inch guns with super heavy American Battleship AP. And for some reason, a lot of these, if you don't get a bunch of destroyers, you end up getting like a battleship and 2 cruisers. And on one team, and sometimes on the other team, you'll get 2 battleships and a cruiser. But this is very good at slapping and decimating enemy cruisers, because getting hit with the Oklahoma, if you get hit by a broadside salvo, especially at tier 5 and a tier 5 cruiser, since tier 5 cruisers don't have very good armor so far, except maybe the Hawkins might be the only one that has decent armor. That's Techline premiums. I'm not sure about premiums. Maybe, if I'm correct, maybe the Exeter has decent armor, but yeah. The only problem mainly is hitting stuff, since it's American Battleship AP, and American Battleship AP has a tendency to kind of float into the lower atmosphere, and then after about 5 seconds of floating in the lower atmosphere, fall back down to the Earth. So at long range, it's pretty hard to hit anything. Unless it's a battleship or maybe an aircraft carrier. But decently close range, kind of like the Soviet battleships at like 10 kilometers. You can hit pretty much anything. Like in the replay, you might have already seen it, or you might end up seeing it. You might end up not citadeling it, but doing a decent amount of damage to a Kutovsky, I'm pretty sure, and gain like 6k out of it. And then against battleships, it does quite well because since it's slower because it has the all or nothing American Dreadnought armor, which means you can't move very fast. But tier 5, very few battleships. There's only like 2 or maybe 3 tier 5 battleships that can move decently fast. The Congo, the Peter Voloki moves pretty fast, and the Derflinger is around that range. I think the Conte Caviar, or Caval or whatever, moves around the same speed. So, and that's around, the Congo is the fastest one, tier 5 at around 30 knots, fully upgraded. The other ones from like 26 to 28 knots. And the Oklahoma's around 18 knots. But for most battleships, Oklahoma is very dangerous to most battleships since it has very good armor, which means even if you're broadside, and well, usually if you're broadside to a battleship, you'll mainly just get slapped by Battleship AP. Because Oklahoma has a lot of armor all over it, on the broadside as well. But if you're fully, like, in a flat broadside, yeah, you have a large tendency to not do very well. Because what will happen is, they usually won't citadel you, but they will, enemy battleships, if you're fully broadside them, usually just get a whole bunch of penetrations, and do sometimes upwards of like 10,000 damage to you, and that's not good. Like in the replay, one point, Conte, the Cavar, I'll just call it that, ends up trying to slap me. Well, it does end up slapping me. You might have already seen it, you might have not. But yeah, yeah, I think you already saw it. But my opinion on Brawls, they're very fun, which since I'm trying to grind up to the Repulse, which is a new British premium battle cruiser that you can get entirely for free through the dockyard, which ends in, I think, the end of the week, maybe? Ends very soon, but that is a whole nother story. Maybe next week, no, the week after next week, because next week is the second part. If you haven't already seen the first part of my Master of Orion playthrough, it'll be the second part. So I recommend, I'll put the link in the description for the first one. But yeah, I recommend you watch that. But yeah, back to Brawls. They're fun for the most part. Occasionally you can have, like, not dropout, what's the thing where it just goes really fast? I can't remember what it's called. Where a battle goes really fast. It's pretty much a one-sided battle. But sometimes those can happen, but not usually. Like, you probably should be currently seeing me chase down a Murmansk. And I don't remember what's called. Omaha. A Omaha. The Tier 5 American Techline Light Cruiser. Tier 5 American Techline Cruiser, period. But, yeah, that thing's fun to chase down in a battleship that, if it's pretty much at the range where I can't really hit it that well without extremely very good aiming, which, even though I have 10 guns, it's hard to hit it at. It's like at 15 kilometers, which doesn't seem like much, but it goes fast and it's very maneuverable compared to my American pretty much rocket ships that go all the way up in space and then drop down. Well, I did actually hit it and do decent damage to it for like 5,000 damage. But yeah, it's ended up being very hard to hit it. See here. Yes, so pretty much I end up chasing after it. And so, yes, yeah, I end up chasing it down, and after a while of attacking it, and pretty much getting in brawling range and almost killing me with AP from a light cruiser that has 152mm guns, I end up getting a shot off at it when it decides to go broadside, which is not a very good idea, and attacking it but getting a couple of ricochets. So then I fire again, not thinking I'll be able to hit it or I'll just get a ricochet, and I end up hitting it and killing it. I think I was on top. I was the only survivor on the team, and my team won. So, I need to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Watch all my other videos, and I guess I should say goodbye. See you on the high seas.